Hey guys, welcome to part 2 of how to train your psychic powers, how to unlock and train your psychic powers. My name is Joshi. In part 1 we went over just establishing a base for how to begin this training through meditation. So starting your meditation practice, I will say that if you are not able to meditate for 5 to 10 minutes, you probably shouldn't be dabbling and pursuing your psychic powers anyway, and you should also realize that while pursuing psychic powers may sound all great and everything, you also should realize, one, your intentions for doing so, and two, that there are drawbacks to everything. Just as in, people don't realize that they want to have a lot of money, there comes a lot more responsibility with having more money, there's more problems with having more money, people start to treat you differently, perceive you in a different way, and that can add a burden that people didn't initially perceive of. Same thing with psychic powers. Being able to read into other people's energy more readily is something that you have to be prepared for. And if you are still very invested in the ego and you're attempting to do it to gain something, that will not only block you from having full access to being a pure channel and using those psychic powers, but it's also going to make it very uncomfortable for you to be tuned in to that awareness of psychic resonances and people's energy fields, and to be able to read into that. If you are not stable enough into yourself to handle that experience, it can affect you very negatively and may actually turn you off from this whole process. So I encourage you to really set the intention within yourself for why you want to do this, and to ultimately work on yourself first before you're trying to adapt to these powers and bring them into your focus. So, what I want to go over in this video is building faith and kind of removing blockages that don't allow us to tap into our psychic potential. A lot of what we believe is holding us back from accepting this. We have been raised in a society that is mostly Christian and is also very scientific focused. So there was a long period of time where science was kind of denying that anything like this was possible. There was no psychic powers, there was no proof of it, no studies have been done to show this. But that's actually not true now. And if you want to go and find studies and materials that back up the proof that there is psychic power, there's plenty of things in quantum mechanics. There's all kinds of books you can read. I would encourage you to do your own research and find out exactly what the information is out there on psychic powers and what has been recorded. One very good example that I always use is Wim Hof, who is this guy who, through the power of breathing and meditation, is able to hike mountains in nothing but shorts. He's hiked Everest in nothing but shorts. He can reject diseases from his body, and his disciples can do this as well. They can reject diseases that are injected into their bodies from doctors. This has all been medically recorded. So he's also run a marathon in a desert without any water, and this has all been recorded, so it's been established scientifically that these things are possible and can be done. And no, you don't have to be a very rare, special superhuman to do these things. Wim Hof was a regular guy, living a regular life. He lost his wife to suicide, and through that, it brought about a transformation in himself. He began meditating very heavily. He began doing a lot of breath work, and that allows him, because of the way he has restructured his mind and telling himself what is possible, it allows him to do these things that seem impossible to the average person. So that's a good place to start. You want to remove all the blockages of doubt in your mind and really believe this is possible. And you also want to remove the idea that it's some mystical concept that takes some kind of powerful guru or the influence of some outside spiritual forces that are working in your favor. You can certainly frame it in that context if that helps you to believe it. But I think for a lot of people it may help them to see that this is just a natural human function that has been suppressed within our species, and that if we open ourselves back up to it and balance the channel in a proper way, we can gain access to these abilities that we've kind of lost. I will also note that a lot of us are already experiencing psychic influences. We just don't really believe it. and so we usually shrug it off anytime. I mean, depending on which way we term it, people talk about intuition all the time. We trust our intuition, and we can talk about that. Well, intuition is part of the psychic ability. How are you able to read into information that you're not consciously aware of? Well, the way it works, and at least the way I imagine it works, is your subconscious intelligence is so much greater and so much more aware of things than your conscious intelligence. So you are able to work those things out on sort of an underground level, using things that you not even realize that you're aware of. It picks up that information and sort of decodes it in a way that makes it readily available to the consciousness, and then the subconsciousness, will send sort of hints to the consciousness to pick up on and be like, well, this is kind of what we're getting, and then it's up to you to either dismiss it or trust it, and also be able to tell the difference between what is an actual intuition and what is your fear telling you something. If your fear is feeding you the information, that's where you can kind of get mixed. Doubt will also feed you information. So the information can be false at times, and learning to recognize the difference is also important. Meditation will also help you do that because it gets you in tune with the present moment. It removes the blockages, and that's a big thing as well. We are not really so much training something that's not there. We're removing the blockages to something that has always been there and allowing it to function without those things in place. So, main focus here, build your faith, remove whatever sort of thought systems and beliefs you have in place that are saying, I can't do this, this isn't possible, it hasn't been demonstrated that it can be done. All of those things are untrue. It has been demonstrated, it can be done, you can do it, it can be taught, it can be learned. So move through anything that's holding you back, any doubts that are going to rise up, any misconceptions about how the whole thing works. If you can kind of establish the belief in your mind that this is commonplace, that this is something we've always been able to do throughout history, you'll really be able to tap into it more easily, because it won't scare you or impress you or seem like something that's sort of mystical, miracle, magic. I do believe in magic, but I also believe everything is magic. So it's like, I know a lot of people get all freaked out. There's the voodoo witchcraft things going on. Well, no, everything is magic. Whether or not you know how to explain it doesn't make it more or less magical. It may seem more mystical and mysterious because we don't have the scientific explanation behind it yet. And it may seem more mundane when you can explain it scientifically, but it's still just as magical that you are living and moving because you are respirating the chemicals that come off of the trees. Like, that whole process is so completely enchanted that it doesn't matter how much you couch it in terms of scientific explanation, it's still going to be magic. And like Einstein said, either everything is a miracle or nothing is. So I think it's always better to see things as magical, either way, and to also not be afraid of the idea of something being magical just because we don't fully understand it yet. Anyway, moving forward, as you let go and release the fears and intend toward being able to believe that this is possible, you'll also want to start as your next step to deepen your meditation practice. So once you are able to hold your focus in the present moment for 5 to 10 minutes, you're going to want to start moving out of that and be able to be present and aware in the presence of other people. And that's when you're really going to start picking up on your psychic influences. As long as there's no thoughts that you're attached to clouding what you're actually perceiving, you'll be able to pick up on those energy reads a lot easier. I'll also say this, there are kind of two different types of psychic reading. You have your empathic and I guess what we'll call psychic, for lack of a more defining term for now. So empaths are generally more geared, and we can do both obviously, we are capable of both these things. Some people are more geared toward empathic, some people are more geared toward psychic, but empaths will pick up on the energy of emotion, whereas when you're psychically reading into something, you will pick up on the energy of thought systems. So, and you kind of read both at once, but some are more tuned into one over the other. In general, empaths, people are a lot more tuned into their empathy, simply because there's a lot less of a stigma on being able to read people's emotions. And you can also generally, and though people do this with psychic as well, generally you can adapt people's emotions or identify with them as your own. And this is something that I think I've been doing for a long time throughout my life, is that I'm so empathic, I will pick up so strongly on other people's emotions that I will justify and explain why I'm feeling these emotions that have absolutely no reason to be present within myself. I'll kind of explain that away and find a reason why I'm feeling this way, without realizing that I'm actually may just be picking up and claiming as my own other people's emotional energy. So anyway, there's less of a stigma on the emotional readings, and I think less of an awareness too, on when we're picking up non-emotional readings, when we're picking up the thought readings. There's less awareness there. So I'm probably going to end this video here. I think that's a good step forward. Try to bring your meditation practice up off the mat, up out of your sitting position, and be fully present and aware in a situation where you have to deal with someone, and see if you can tap into other forms of energy. See if you can start to, while you've calmed your mind and you're a clear channel, if you start to notice things, start even to feel things that aren't resonating with, or shouldn't be, arising in your own energy field, really just pay attention and see what comes up, and that's when you'll start to be able to read the first few signals or signs or readings of other people's energy, and you'll get it'll kind of just feel like impressions. You'll get an impression that it's this way. And really, really pay attention, and try to do this with someone that you're comfortable with and that can be very honest with you, because it can be very confusing at first to try to read the energy of someone who is also masking their actual authenticity behind an act, which most people are doing as long as they're still couched in the ego. So find someone who is very comfortable letting their guard down with you and who will absolutely be honest with you, so that when you are getting a reading, maybe you can ask them about it and see if it resonates. That is all I have for now in this video. In the next part 3, we'll start to go into some actual physical practices you can do besides meditation, that will give you kind of a way to practice what it feels like when you're picking up these impulses of psychic energy, and how to kind of navigate your reaction to that. Thanks so much for following along, guys. Again, I am Joshi. Go ahead and leave me a subscription down below. We'll catch you in part 3. All love, all blessings. Peace.